If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
My 13-year-old acts like a puppy again.
Almost overnight, she's a different dog.
Perfect poops.
When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply real meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of highly processed pellets. No tricks, just smarter, healthier pet food delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do. Get 50% off your first order at thefarmersdog.com/nomagicfifty.
This is Kansas State's Cooper Beebe, and you're listening to the Powercat Postgame Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribing to this show on your favorite podcast provider.
Welcome to a special edition of the Postgame Review Podcast. After a game like that, Colt Carmody and I said, to the Batcave, let's get to the studio and record a podcast. And the irony is, I had to do the post-game walk and talk in which I didn't really know what to say because it was so damn stunning what I'd just seen on the football field. And now I've decided to commit at least 30 more minutes of my time trying to explain what I just saw from the Kansas State Wildcats. If you missed it, if you don't know what happened, Kansas State won a really close game against Oklahoma State. Very, very competitive, 48-0. That is the largest shutout of a top 10 team by a lesser ranked team in the history of college football.
Ever.
Not at K-State, ever, anywhere. And it is the fifth largest shutout of a top 10 team, period, with the other four being losses to higher ranked teams.
The last time a top 10 team was shut out by more than 40 points, I believe, was 1963.
I thought it was 67.
Or 67? Was it 67?
Might have been 67. I've got it on my phone. I could check, but...
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Oh, my goodness. Well, let's just say this. We're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf, and I want you to go celebrate that historic K-State victory by going to Caddyshack Golf. It's Caddy with 2 T's. Caddyshackgolf.com and get you something. Go get you a pullover, a polo. I don't care if you golf or not. It is sweet, sweet merch.
There is a visor on the website. It's white. It has a little script K-State on it. It's very nice.
A visor. Go get your stoops on and buy a visor.
Gundy's visor was not very good tonight.
Cole, was there ever a series of events that would have led you to believe this could happen?
The blowout of 40-plus points, no. Did I see a scenario where K-State won and maybe in convincing fashion? I would say maybe if Spencer Sanders got hurt. I mean, we saw what Gunnar Gundy had at the end of the game. That would have been the only way, and while Spencer Sanders did end up coming out of the game with an injury, I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, but they did show him on the TV coming out of the game. Yeah, I don't think anybody in their right mind saw K-State just running away with this game. It was impressive.
Will Howard was absolutely phenomenal, just phenomenal in this football game. And I see a lot of people out there doing mea culpas, retracting everything they've said bad about the kid. And maybe throwing a little love for Chris Kleiman, who said last year famously they have the best backup in college football, and then Will never showed it on the field. But everyone I have spoken with during Will Howard's time here after the pandemic has said how good he is in practice. And it finally has slowed down for him. He looks like he's in charge out there. And after that first half at TCU, in which I thought they backed off the offense, Colin Klein called a brilliant game. He just seemed to dial up the right plays at the right times, including a little screen pass that caught OSU in a blitz that Cade Warner took to the house. Man, I everything just went right for K-State from the very start when they convert a 4th and 10 at the Oklahoma State 38 with a just a beautiful throw and catch between Howard and Cade Warner. Deuce Vaughn gets loose for a 62-yard touchdown. Phillip Brooks on a 31-yard touchdown pass. The Warner slip screen that I mentioned, little receiver screen, 41-yard pass. And then Deuce Vaughn goes in from a yard out on a pass, a great catch, to make it 35-0 at halftime. This game was over at halftime, and they essentially did to Oklahoma State what they couldn't do to TCU. They slammed the door on them. There was no way they were going to come back from that. And then Ty Zentner kicked a pair of field goals. He took over the field goal kicking this week, and I imagine there's no reason to change that out. We'll see how that progresses. And then, of course, DJ Giddens rounded it out with a really nice 9-yard run in the fourth quarter as the backups were in at that point to get you to 48-0. And through all of this, we want to talk about Will Howard, but Cole, the defense was brilliant.
The defense without Daniel Green.
Nick Allen was a man.
It defies logic, Fitz. I mean, everything we had been talking about all week, and I was honestly more optimistic than probably anybody else in the local media, at least. I felt like that K-State had a good chance. If they got Josh Hayes and Julius Prince both back out there on the field, that would help make up for the loss of Daniel Green. Because as we talked about on the Friday walkthrough, I felt like they would limit Nick Allen and Desmond Purnell's playing time a little bit by having some nickel. Maybe they would play a little bit more safeties and corners. They did that, but Nick Allen, when he was out there, played outstanding. And you're right, he led the team in tackles. And Nick Allen, it's interesting because when I was in high school, he was in high school. I don't feel that old that often, but seeing a guy like that who is, he's a fifth-year senior now, who's gone through everything. He led the state in tackles his senior year at high school on a Blue Valley Southwest team that was absolutely terrible. He comes to K-State, and as somebody who had played against and around him growing up, it was one of those things to where, okay, you kind of shake your head. You're like, is he good enough to play here? He makes an impact on special teams. He waits his time, and he is a grown man on the football field. Fitz, he came into that post-game media press conference. He looks like he's like 35. If you haven't seen him, he's bald, he's got a massive beard, and he plays like he has his hair that he doesn't have on fire.
He looks like an extra from Vikings. Yeah. He looks like he's been cast on a Viking show. It was absolutely amazing. Jake Clifton ends up being the backup middle linebacker when they realized that they weren't going to have Daniel Green because just based off his name.
Bo Palmer.
Yep. Got injured this week, so he's lost for the season. So I think, Clifton's going to continue to play that. We don't know Daniel Green's status. Something odd that Chris Kleiman said that Clifton will be the backup linebacker the rest of the season. I'm like, oh, you mean third string? Mm-hmm. So is Daniel done? That was a little concerning how he said that. Maybe he just meant he'll be playing there the rest of the season because they do need a third guy. Because they didn't have one. Well,
and it makes me too wonder, are you hesitant to bring Daniel back unless he's 100%? I mean, obviously next week we got a lot of time before them, but you do have a Bijan Robinson from Texas coming in, who that run game will look a little bit different than it did today against Oklahoma State. So maybe there is a little bit more added emphasis on trying to get Deuce Green back. But, I mean, literally I felt like the defense, it was the best they've played all season long because this is an Oklahoma State team, Fitz. 45 points a game. That is third in the country. I would be curious to know the stats on if a team who is at this point in the season averaged more than 40 points per game has ever been shut out, period. I doubt that's ever happened. I'm sure you could go find, some stat where it happened in the 60s like we saw earlier, but there's no way that a team that averages more than 40 points per game, third in the nation, to hold them to 0 points. This is the best defensive performance, not just by a K-State team, but by any team, any unit, any single unit in the entire country this season. That's not an exaggeration.
Will Howard, 21 of 37 completions, 296 yards, 4 touchdowns, was not sacked. He had a fairly clean pocket all day long. He did run around a little bit, but, those numbers are good. But they're not They're not flawless. And he admitted this in the post-game press conference that they missed opportunities. He missed some passes, some receivers dropped balls. He wasn't as accurate as he wanted to be at times. Is there a quarterback controversy, Cole? I mean, where are we at with this? He's played 2 games. He could play 2 more and keep his red shirt. I'm fearing that Adrian's injury is going to be chronic because after 2 weeks, he took 1 hit to re-aggravate it. He tried to go. He prepared. I think he would have played if something had happened to Will. He would have come in, not once it became a blowout probably, but Will Howard, I think you burn the red shirt. And that doesn't mean you make him the starting quarterback. I just think you need to give him some time on the field once in a while. And
I'm with you 100% on that. And somebody asked me, I was talking to my dad on the way out of the stadium, and that's the first thing everybody wants to know, right? What are they going to do at quarterback? I think if Adrian's healthy enough to start, which by all signs, if it was a game time decision, literally a game time decision this week, you would think one more extra week and he would be good to go. I think that he'll start if he's healthy. I think Adrian's earned that. He has that reputation. He's completely turned his season around. He earns that opportunity to come back. Now, you can make an argument that Will Howard has earned the starting quarterback role, and I'll agree with you. I think Will Howard has played tremendous. But I also think that the 3 games in conference play we've seen from Adrian Martinez have been very steady. And there's going to be ups and downs with any team, just like there's going to be ups and downs with any quarterback with Will. But I think Adrian has earned that opportunity to where if he is healthy, he should get the go. And if he struggles, if he doesn't feel the 100%, you know that you have Will Howard who can come in, who can win you football games. And let's be honest, Fitz, the Will Howard we saw today, you want to talk about this red shirt all you want. Okay, say they use this red shirt, he would technically have next year, the year after that, and then the year after that. So he could theoretically play for 3 more seasons. If Will Howard is any good, if he plays like he did today, he won't be around 3 more seasons. No. At this point, with the talent he has, he just needs 2 years, and he could potentially play at the next level. I think this red shirt is out of the question. I think if he can help you win games, you play him.
I agree. And I think, Adrian's still the starter. There's no doubt about it. But you're going to have to find a time to get him in. Maybe play them both together at some point. I don't know. They can do some interesting things if they decide not to redshirt him. We'll figure that out as we go later into the season. We'll see what Chris Kleiman says at Tuesday's press conference. But I'm with you. The thought of him being around 3 more seasons after this doesn't feel tangible. I mean, he's either going to wash out or he's going to play like this and he's going to be gone. So
you realize, Fitz, if that does happen, they keep the red shirt on him, Will Howard will have played in parts of 6 seasons. He will have made at least 1 start in 6 consecutive seasons at K-State. Think about that. That's literally impossible any other time besides COVID. Again, it's kind of a hyperbole. I don't think that that's going to happen, but it speaks to the kind of kid that Will Howard is. The fact that he, you listen to his post-game interviews, he said, I didn't transfer because I loved it here. I trusted the coaches. I trusted the locker room. I love those guys. That shows on the field because the chemistry that he has with his receivers right now is remarkable. I mean, for not being able to practice with the ones for pretty much the entire season, he gets thrown into it this week, and he comes out, and Malik Knowles, 13 targets, 8 receptions, 113 yards. Cade Warner, 97 yards. Phillip Brooks, 41 yards. The 3 guys that we have questioned all year, are they going to be able to step up that receiver position? Will Howard made them look like all Big 12 performers.
And I'm going to put this out there. There was talk about some of those guys not wanting to play if Will Howard was quarterback because he was inaccurate. I've never seen anything like this. How a kid has reinvented himself. Cole, the students carried him off the field like he had just slayed Goliath. Now look, Oklahoma State's good, but I mean, he deserved it. I'm not saying that it was amazing. It was dumbfounding what we watched. They went for it on 4th and 10, and he threw a touchdown pass. A 38-yard, just drop it in a bucket touchdown pass.
That's when you knew the game. You knew they were going to win that game at that point. I'm sitting there, and I tell you, why are they going for this? On 4th and 5, I understand. But 4th and 10, punt the ball. Punt the ball, punt the ball, punt the ball. Chris Kleiman said it after the game. We're either going to get it or we're going to die trying. Cade Warner said it after the game. A player in sports who has nothing to lose is the scariest person on the field. Will Howard has nothing to lose. K-State has nothing to lose rolling him out there. And you could tell that offensive game plan was impressive. Mm-hmm. Colin Klein completely changed things. And he can say, oh, the game plan doesn't change that much with Will and Adrian. No, I don't believe that whatsoever, because Will Howard ran the ball for 5 times. You don't think that if Adrian Martinez was in, they would have only ran the ball 5 times? I'm going to tell you, they would have ran the ball at least 15 times with Adrian Martinez in the game. Will Howard, just like we talked about on the Questions podcast, he came out, he slung that ball around, and it was the best quarterback performance at K-State since...
I don't know.
I don't
know.
It was remarkable.
Deuce Vaughn did carry the ball 22 times. That was a much heavier load than I thought we'd see from him, and maybe that went up when Adrian Martinez went out. He ran for 158, and, of course, that 162-yard touchdown. That I think that really sucked the life out of that Oklahoma State defense. They were selling out to stop the run. They were willing to see if Will Howard could complete passes, and he started to show that. And then Deuce just runs right through the middle of your defense and outruns your secondary. I think at that point they knew we're in big trouble here. We can't stop the run, we can't stop the pass, and we can't move the ball. It was just a unholy convergence of awful for Oklahoma State in this game. And I will be curious as we prepare to go to break where this moves K-State in the rankings, where it moves Oklahoma State in the rankings, and why do I have this weird feeling that somehow, some way, Texas is going to end up ranked above K-State. Just somehow it's going to work that way. We'll be back after this short break on the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast, sponsored by Caddyshack Golf.
This is Kansas State's Daniel Green, the leaders in K-State sports coverage. We'll be right back with more of the Powercat Postgame Podcast.
Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's doctor-designed program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created. James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com code podcast.
This is Kansas State's Felix Nyedika Uzama. Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast. You're getting 2. That's what's going to happen here. It's not just road games now. Apparently, if K-State wants to play this way, we'll do a second postgame review podcast. Brien Hanley and I will talk either Sunday or Monday and give you that version of it. I'm really anxious to hear what he has to say. But tonight, postgame-wise, I've got Cole Carmody here because Brien Hanley is having his annual Halloween party.
What is he dressing up as?
I can't remember. He told me, but I can't remember. It's not easy for us big guys.
Is he going to dress up as an offensive lineman?
That'd be a good costume.
Just dig into his closet.
He should dress up as that guy who does the basketball shooting that, is really awful, that chucks it over the backboard.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I mean, Brien Hanley did play college basketball. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
He did.
Wow.
He was the first ever point post guard. He could post you up as a point guard.
I think the most popular costume in Aggieville tonight, Saturday night, is going to be that offensive line. Cooper Beebe, Hayden Gillum, all those guys. Fitz, that offensive line was so impressive today. I every week I sit there and I say, this offensive line, if they can play well, K-State is going to move the ball offensively. They played well. They played extraordinarily well. We talked about this on the Friday walkthrough. One thing that I felt like K-State could expose Oklahoma State's defense was the run up the middle, the inside zones, the powers, the counters. Deuce Vaughn ran between the tackles like Christian Okoye today. I mean, he was running over people. He was making people miss. I mean, the round rock nightmare. Deuce Vaughn running between the tackles. That is something that K-State fans, if he can do that, you should be happy, because that means K-State is doing something right.
Man, it was they just showed him. We've got the TV on here in the studio, and they just showed that Deuce Vaughn run, and it was so well blocked. And he read it perfectly. You give Deuce that little crease, and he sees the green in front of him. Holy cow. He outran dudes. Just outran them. They couldn't catch him.
He looked healthy today, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know what they did with him, but he looked like Deuce Vaughn again.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really nice. And I feel good for Malik Knowles as we continue this podcast. 13 targets, 8 catches, 113 yards. After completion, his yak was 47 yards.
Should have had a touchdown, too, by the way.
Yeah.
How was that not a touchdown?
I don't know. I don't know how that wasn't a touchdown. He literally was laying in the end zone.
The referees were not good today. That is one thing that if it would have been a closer game, people would have been up in arms. Those guys were not good today, between spotting the ball, between missing about 1 million holding calls, some iffy pass interference. I don't understand the referee's name. It's usually on here. I'm sure Scott, I believe, is his first name.
Scott Campbell.
That is the muscle guy. For those of you keeping track at home, that crew, it just seems like every time K-State has them, something happens. I mean, I don't quite get it. This is the same Texas Tech crew when the whistle blew, when Julius Brents got the interception, and he came and said, there's nothing, it's a first down. They just find ways to screw things up. I don't know, but it didn't matter. K-State was on a roll today, but yeah, I mean, there's really nothing that they did wrong. I mean, we're sitting in the post-game press conference. What did K-State do wrong? It's like, I don't know what they did wrong.
I should have asked Coach Kleiman about the penalty on the sideline, if that was the low light of the game. Just that call alone, I've never seen that called without a sideline warning.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. A coach ran into an official. Maybe it's because the official wasn't paying attention and ran into the coach.
Yeah, I get the rule, but usually you give a warning. And just anyhow. Yeah, it's nice to complain about officiating after a 48-0 win, but there was some strangeness here. Poor Felix. He was held so often. I'm just astonished. One was just right in front of Scott Campbell, the white hat, just right in front of him. The lineman has him, just a grip on him as Felix has passed him, and he just lets it go.
Where does Oklahoma State go from here?
Oh, wow.
I mean, This is how do you respond from this kind of loss? If K-State would have won, in the fashion that happened against TCU with Oklahoma State, where they came all the way back and TCU ends up beating them in overtime, you can respond from that, and they did. But how do you respond from a loss 48-0? You're the number 9 team in the country. I know they got to go to KU next. Coming off of a bye. Fitz, the Jayhawks might get that game. They just might find a way, especially if Jalen Daniels is healthy, to steal that game, because much like their in-state rivals, Oklahoma, K-State may have exposed the Cowboys here a little bit.
Yep. They go to Kansas next week. They have Iowa State and West Virginia still coming into Stillwater, with Oklahoma in the middle of that. They close the year with maybe the 3 worst teams in the conference. This game, dude, they were basically in the title game. They win this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see them losing any of those Final Four, but you might be right. They might have been exposed. Did they look right past K-State? Did they think
might have.
we beaten Texas? We're now in control of this spot. K-State's nothing. We've been handling them. I felt like they weren't prepared for this game. But if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'm fuming mad that they came off of 2 really great performances. I mean, they played TCU to the wire. They beat a really good Texas team, and then they just come and don't even look like they care about this game.
And there's no excuse for it. I mean, there's literally no excuse for it. I mean, we sat up in the press box and we're just marveling at the defense. They did not know how to get lined up. They're down by 28 points in the first half. They don't know where to line up.
They were lost.
And it's not like K-State was doing anything crazy offensively. They lined up and said, we're better than you and we're going to beat you. That's what they did, and Oklahoma State had no idea what to do. I mean, this loss is as much as on the coaches as it is on the players. Anytime you lose by this much, the coaches have to take a look in the mirror.
Yep.
Because there's something that went awfully wrong in Stillwater.
They literally couldn't get lined up at times. They were moving around, and I don't know if they're trying to, confuse Kansas State's blocking schemes, but I think they confused themselves. They wanted to take away the run. That was their number one thing. They didn't fear Will Howard. Well, everyone's going to have to respect Will Howard's ability to throw the ball now. He's done it in back-to-back games. He's shown something next level. Cole, we went from talking about redshirting Will Howard so he could be the bridge guy to get to Avery Johnson, and now we were putting him in the NFL. I'm ready to build a statue next to Bill Snyder out there. I'm going to get a whole bunch of copper shipped in. It's cheap stuff, yeah. And then just I'm going to handcraft this.
He's kind of a Bill Snyder quarterback. He's got that toughness. He's got that grit. And I'm sorry, but I look at Will Howard and the type of person he is, the type of kid he is. He reminds me of his offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's not as nifty a runner.
No, he's not. But just the way he's so positive.
Oh, it's crazy. He's a wonderful kid.
It's weird to a sense. And Adrian's like that too. I mean, I think people, how many times have we heard, Colin Klein, he's got to figure out the offensive play calling. There's so many things that go wrong. But people are failing to realize that this is his first season calling the plays. He's basically a freshman offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do that. And when you are given a team that has this much talent, it can be even harder to do that sometimes. But he's making it work, and I talked about this after the press conference with Chris Kleiman on Tuesday. I put him in the notes I do that you can for our subscribers. I said the aggressiveness went away against TCU, but don't expect that to happen again. People were kind of, I'll believe it when I see it. The very last thing I said was Kleiman specifically mentioned how he would have gone for it had he known that they would have missed the field goal against TCU. You know what they did, Fitz? It was 4th and 5. We mentioned it earlier. They went for it. You know what their 4th down conversion rate was tonight? 3 of 3. He trusts his offense. He trusts Will Howard. And, man, when a quarterback and a coach trust one another, beautiful things can happen.
Yep. It was an impressive day. The funniest post-game field storming, because it wasn't really a storm. It was kind of like, okay, we'll go out there. We talked about in the postgame, I don't think the students go on the field if they don't bring security over to act like they were going to. They were just like, oh, you expect to storm the field? Okay, we will then. And they just kind of meandered out there. It was kind of a cool scene at the end with took forever to get through postgame because, I mean, you got Will Howard being carried off the field and just what a surreal day to cover college. I love covering college football. We don't see many blowouts in this conference because it's so competitive. But, now this and the Texas win over Oklahoma just kind of jump out at you in a season which it seems like almost every game's coming down to the wire. You just got these two anomalies of just huge blowouts. Well, we'll see where this leads K-State. Next week, they do have Texas. The game kicks at 6. It's on FS1 as of now. There is a World Series game scheduled for Fox that night, but if someone runs away with the series, there won't be a game in a week. So it could get shifted over to Fox.
Before we finish the podcast, I want to ask you this. Is the team you saw today the best team in the Big 12?
Yeah, the team I saw today. Unfortunately, they haven't, I know this. I know if I'm TCU, I'm like, oh, crap. We might have to see this team again. We beat them, but there was kind of a flukish feel to it. I mean, honestly, because they did come back, but they came back in big part because K-State was down to its third quarterback. I mean, I think that you just look at that game. If Will Howard doesn't get hurt in the second half, K-State might win that game.
The game against TCU was more fluky than the game today against Oklahoma State.
Good point.
Think about that. A game in which K-State lost on the road by 10 points was more fluky than a game at home in which they beat the number 9 team in the country 48-0. You cannot argue that. That is a fact. K-State dominated today. They had better players at every single position. Every single thing they did better than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State made some mistakes, sure, kind of. They fumbled. They threw some interceptions. But credit K-State because they caused them. There was no flukiness that happened in this game. There was against TCU.
It's amazing. Got to get Texas. You absolutely have to get Texas now. Maybe this starts the Chris Kleiman redemption tour. We got Will Howard off the hook now. He's beaten Mike Gundy for the first time. He hasn't beaten Texas. He hasn't beaten Baylor. And those are the next two opponents before finishing up with West Virginia and Kansas. The opportunity is there for Kansas State to take control of a spot in the Big 12 title game by beating Texas next week. Can they do it? I know this. I hope Tim Brando isn't calling the game. And folks, I think K-State feels the same way. Remember, we're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf, the great people at Caddyshack. They're K-Staters. It's locally owned. Go check out their website. It's Caddy with 2 T's, caddyshackgolf.com. Use the code GPC for free shipping. Thank you, dude. And buy yourself something to celebrate an incredible, remarkable, and yes, historic Kansas State victory over Oklahoma State. Make sure you look for our second post-game review podcast when Brien Hanley, post-Halloween party, and I talk about the team that dressed up like K-State as axe murderers and killed themselves some cowboys. And before we let you go, there's only one way to properly end this podcast. Let's hear from Will Howard and his post-game press conference. You can't help but love the guy. I mean, he is a great young man, a great representative of the school. And I'll ask you this. If you ever booed Will or any other K-State player, maybe reconsider doing that because Will Howard proved a lot of people wrong, including myself.
Another day at the office for Will Howard?
Just another day at the office. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Getting carried off, how did it feel? What was the emotions going through your head looking up at that scoreboard?
I finished up my interview with TV, and then all of a sudden I'm just getting raised up. I was like, what's going on? It was kind of funny, but that was really cool. That was something I'm going to remember for a long time, and something that I'll cherish for forever.
Talk about your preparation throughout the week.
Yeah, we didn't know who was going, and it was truly a game time decision. But we both knew that no matter what happened, we were gonna be ready, and the game plan didn't change, and we executed. I feel like the best we have. But the thing is, and the thing that makes me feel good is that there's still plays out there that we didn't make, and that things that we can clean up, and that's really cool.
How confident were you out there?
I felt really confident, and the things that after 2 years of kind of some struggles, some trials. It's kind of cliche. People say like the game will slow down for you, and the game has definitely slowed down for me. And it's really cool to have the guys around me that are making the plays that they are. An O-line that barely lets me get touched, and you just look around and. I've been saying you see that look in everybody's eye, and everybody had that look today. It was like, we're not stopping until that clock says 0, and we're keeping the foot on the gas, and that's what we did, and it was a heck of a game.
You go from 4th and 5 to 4th and 10 and still go for it. What's going through your mind?
The mission is the mission. We're going for it, and I love that about Coach Kleiman. I love that about Coach Klein. We're going to stay aggressive no matter what, and the thing is, we had a good game plan, and that was we were all confident in that. We knew that we were going to call a good play, and we made the play.
Well, can you describe how you might just fit this offense a little bit better at this point?
Yeah,
having a ton of success with it.
Yeah, I mean it's with having Coach Klein and the things that we've done, it's worked, and it feels good when you're able to pitch the ball out to guys like Malik and Deuce, and they make guys miss, like that one play where Malik just like made a guy miss and went for 20 more. It's a blessing for me because I'm not doing all that work. I'm just making a little easy pass and let him do the rest. And that's a credit to those guys because they work their tails off, and it's fun to have a bunch of guys that you can trust to make plays.
Did you expect to take as many shots down the field as you did going in?
We knew we had a lot of down the field shots. We knew they were going to play a lot of man coverage and that we could expose them. And I think we did a really good job. We knew, we just had to win in man coverage, and I was confident in my guys, and they did just that. And we had a couple of plays dialed up that were really good down the field, and that one to Phil was really good.
Was it poetic 2 years ago what happened against Oklahoma State to now do what you did today against the same team?
Yeah, definitely, losing to them 2 years, playing against them 2 years, definitely felt like I wanted this one for sure, but I mean, like we always say, it's another game on the schedule, can't look too much into that, but it was really, really good to get that win. And I mean, a really good team, and credit to the defense. They pitched a shutout against a really, really good Oklahoma State team.
What would you like the nation to know about this team?
We're confident. We feel good right now, and we just played a really good game today against a really good team and beat them 48-0. Like, we have a lot of confidence, a lot of great talent, and the nice thing is that we haven't played our best game, and that's still in front of us.
Well, before this week, how much time did you spend every week practicing with the first team offense?
Not much, because going into this year, I was going to redshirt, and obviously I knew that if needed, I was going to come in and play. So I spent some time with the ones during fall camp, and we, but since Adrian's been rolling, it's kind of been him. I've gotten some reps, but I've stayed ready, and that's all you can do when you're a backup in my position. You just keep working, doing what you can, and staying ready.
You still have 2 more games to protect the red shirt if you want. Given a choice, is that still how you'd like to roll? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the team, and whatever happens. I don't know, what the deal is with Adrian and what's going on. So I guess we'll just take it one day at a time.
What does it mean to now be bowl eligible and get this 6th win for some of these guys on the team?
Yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, going to a bowl is a big deal, but I feel like we have bigger goals than that. And this is far from the end for us.
Last week at TCU, Coach Cly and a couple of guys were saying that, after that loss, if you want to keep competing in the conference, the destiny's in your hands. How kind of nice is that, doing that, kind of taking that step?
We knew that, we control our own destiny, and everything we want is still out in front of us. And, doing this today definitely helped that, but, there's still a lot of work to be done. And, facing a good Texas team next week. So enjoy this one for the next 24 hours and then get back to work.
How important was that last struggle that you discussed some of the struggles you've had the last 2 years? How much has it meant that Chris Kleiman kind of stuck with you no matter what?
Yeah, it's huge when your coach has confidence in you, and you can feel that when you're out on the field. You can feel when the play caller, when your play caller has confidence in you, it makes a world of difference. And being able to go out there and play the game that we played today, and do the things that we did offensively. And we showed some spurts of it last week, but really did it today. And, like I keep saying, there's so much more that we can do, and some plays that we left out there. And to me, that's scary.
How important was that last touchdown of the first half to go up by 35?
That was huge. We knew we needed points, and we knew we wanted to, on that third down, we wanted to throw the ball so that we had the field goal in our back pocket. But, I said, we're scoring this football, and Deuce made a heck of a catch on it. We got him in a look that we wanted, and it paid off. And going in 35-0 versus 28-0 is a big difference.
Thank you for listening to the Powercat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.